Welcome to the Dropship Podcast, where you'll learn how to build and grow a high-ticket dropshipping business and hear stories from successful e-commerce entrepreneurs. Let's kick this thing off. Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast, another episode of Good Niche, Bad Niche. I have to address this. We heard at the event that the continues to get longer and louder, and I probably should have done a really long one to start one of these episodes. John Grant, calling you out here, buddy. Thank you for pointing that out at the VIP dinner at Manny's Steakhouse.
I tell you what, I'm glad we brought the music back as well.
Yeah.
I love the music. I don't know. People can't see me on camera when that intro comes in, but I'm like, yeah, it gets a bit of energy.
We are bouncing. We also put some props out here. Waterloo, if you're watching, or Chaco, we would love a sponsorship. So, yeah. But today, Good Niche, Bad Niche, this is my favorite game to play. Yeah. I love talking about the different things that you could sell. And I love talking about the who behind them. This one has a fanatic who. I think so. Anyone I've met who's into this is a little nuts.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's good when it comes to selling things.
It is.
I don't mean to jump right in, but when you say RC hobbyist, are you focusing on anything in particular? Like, are you a train guy? Are you a car guy? Are you airplane? Like, I've got some little little airplane drones that I like flying around. I wouldn't call myself a hobbyist, but
well, in my mind, and look, by no means am I a 100% expert on this, but when I think of, I think there are subcategories to this that you could go down the rabbit hole on. So, like the dude who races cars, like around. Like they have dirt tracks and everything. You race them around. In my mind, feels different from the guy who's got a whole room in his house dedicated to this like giant train track and goes through the scenery and a little mini city and all of this sort of stuff. Like I personally kind of feel like they're different. So I think, and then you've got like RC plane people, and now they're like flying like things with little jet engines in them. Like they're pretty wild one. I mean, I see that stuff on social media sometimes, right? They're pretty freaking cool. That's right. To be honest.
That's where I bought it, right? So you watch one video, you get 15 more, then you get ads. Yeah. And, I had somebody do clearly low ticket dropshipping, and it was like $70.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one free. Which I'm still not even sure how they made that possible. But I bought two of them, brought them outside on our deck, immediately flew it into a tree. And I was like, thank God I have the second one.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably going to crash this one too. But I do wonder if it's the same person. So when you think about selling RC things, right? Like, I wonder if it's better to focus in on one of those. Like, is the guy who's buying, the couple $1,000 planes, they're probably even more than that with potentially small jet engines or, the ones that are going, there's a field. We'll drive by one later tonight when we go to dinner. There's a field where people do this.
Yep.
Is that same guy, does he have a dedicated room in his house to his train sets or his perfect mock-up of New York City, or has the little car? Like, there's so many different little variations to this. I wonder if selling to everyone means you're selling to no one, or that people who are into the RC planes, like, not that they hate the RC train folks, but they don't get it. We're different because we're the plane. Like, I wonder if it's completely different people, and it's kind of polarizing which one you're into.
I don't know. It's possible. I mean, if I was thinking of going into this space, there'd probably be a couple of things that I would do. One, I'd be looking, if I was like, man, I'm going to get into the plane side of thing. I think I'd be going and looking at like what search volume exists for these things. How, like, if you think of some of our niche or market selection criteria, we look at how much traffic volume is there, how many suppliers do I see? Like, I mean, if I looked at one like the planes and I could only really see like 3 suppliers, I'm sure that's not the case. But if I looked at it, I'd be like, maybe that's not big enough to build a drop shipping. I mean, there's a business there for sure, and that just in that one group, but maybe it's not a high ticket drop shipping business. Maybe I need to encompass a bit more in that space. But I definitely think if you think about it from the content and just the feel of your site and everything, I think focusing in on one obviously makes your life a lot easier from that perspective. So to me, a lot of it would come down to like, what is the actual market size of each of those individual elements? And I mean, you can make anything work, but once again, I mean, if you're sitting here saying, I want to build like a 8-figure a year dropshipping business, there are some subcategories of niches that they can't actually support that unless you go outside of dropshipping.
Mm-hmm.
If you start to then bring in your own products and you build your own brand in that space, which is somewhere we can all go, I think you can bust through some of those sort of small market sizes and really dominate in there. But I don't know if you can always do it just by drop shipping.
So you mentioned market size. How are you determining that? So someone listening to this is they're hopefully learning from us on how to choose the right niche, how to choose a market that's big enough. Where again, I kind of fall into the camp of like you can make a couple $1,000s a month and be really like the RC airplane guy who has this business. He is probably thrilled to wake up and do this every day and make a few $1,000s.
Right.
But if you want to make an 8-figure business, you do need some scale. How are you determining that? How do we teach that in Dropship Breakthru?
Yeah, so I'm going to go. So if we think about the marketing that we primarily focus on with high ticket dropshipping at this point in time. We're talking about Google ads, Google shopping ads, and we're talking about search engine optimization and, gathering, organic search traffic. And so I'm going to go and look like how much traffic exists on the Google platform. And so there's a number of keyword sort of research tools you can use here. Google Ads has a keyword planner within it that's free to use. There are other tools like Ubersuggest, for example, or, Keywords Everywhere, or these sorts of things. And I would just go to one of those and find some of the sort of root keywords that I would use. Like, we're looking at a product on the screen here, like, a turbine jet or a radio controlled turbine jet or something like that. I just start punching some of those into one of those keyword research tools and see what search volume exists around those. And of course, those tools will then suggest other related keywords. You can see all the variations of those search terms. You start adding those up together. It's not just that one term that you want to look at. You want to look at what are all the variations, because you can rank for all of those as well. And sort of just start combining those numbers and see, what you're looking at. And once again, depending on which country you're in, is going to have some relevance as to what number you're looking at. So I think, because the other factor in this that you can take into account a little bit is competition as well. You know what I mean? So if you're in a very competitive market, you don't also want a very competitive market with a tiny amount of traffic. That's going to be more difficult than a large amount of traffic with lesser competition. But I think, if I'm saying, I'm just trying to remember, like if I was seeing 40,000 searches a month across all my variations or thereabouts, I'd be happy. Like I'd be real happy with that. If it was higher than that, yeah, no dramas.
I think we might need to do a deep dive on one of these episodes of like how to get in there. Because I can see people listening to this and, on the screen, it says RC hobbyists. I can imagine they just go to Google and type in RC train. And then they're like, well, that's a lot of volume. Whereas, that's products from $10 for my 2-year-old to $10,000 for the person we're actually targeting. And so how to hone in on that, we should probably do a little more deep dive.
Yeah. And I think that would be one of the potential things that you have to keep in mind with this space is that, yes, for a lot of these products, you can buy a big kit or a full kit. But let's say you're targeting the dude who likes to race RC cars. Well, he's constructing these things and the motors in them like from the nuts and bolts, right? And they pull them apart, they service them. So there's a lot of like service parts and little replaceable parts that individually are not worth much money. They're not high ticket products, right? And I think you've still got to serve your customer. You have to offer those individually here, I think. And so I think that's a consideration because you're going to end up shipping products where the profit in dollar terms is like $1 or $2 or something like that. And so I think you've got to, that adds, I guess, extra amount of work setting up, but and you've got to think about that when it comes to your site and your organization of your site, and that has flow-on effects for like search engine optimization down the track. So I think there's an extra few challenges there involved with those parts. By no means for me is that a reason not to do it.
So I'm looking at chiefaircraft.com. I'm not sure if our guy can pull this up, and I'm looking at a $5,000 remote control turbine jet, which sounds perfect, right? This falls right in line with what we teach. But looking through here, it does what you said, right? There's going to be these high ticket products, and then there's going to be a lot of smaller dollar products. I think if I was serving this industry, I would spend a lot of money to acquire the customers for the big products, knowing that I'm going to sell a lot of little things down the road. I would like whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. That's what Ryan Dice has always said. I agree with him. And so can you spend the most to acquire these high ticket products, which is like a benefit of us selling high ticket items. There's a lot of margin there for us to acquire a customer, and know that if we do a good job email marketing, a good job remarketing, a good job of just serving our customer, they're going to need parts. They're going to need accessories. They're going to need their second jet and their third jet and their fourth jet that we can talk to them. We don't have to go pay to acquire them again. I kind of like this, if I'm honest with you. I just don't know if there's enough products.
Yeah, and you've got to think there's like even a subscription model sitting in here somewhere. Like there's got to be like service kits for a lot of these products, right? Where you get like a kit of parts that you're going to replace every so often. I would have to think. And, once again, that adds maybe a little bit of recurring revenue, automatic recurring revenue into your business perhaps, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm looking at one of the jets on this website here, click related products, and it's just the turbine engine. It's $4,000, $5,000, $4,000,
Nice.
$4,500. Like this actually has me a little more interested. I wouldn't say I'm an aficionado, but I do like watching. I think I've always watched planes since I was a kid, just flying over. We kind of have the route into MSP going over my little town, and then driving by this little place that we'll drive by later today, where they're flying these things. It always seemed very interesting. But I do think it takes a special person. I was a business partner with someone who was a pilot before. Interesting guy, like definitely his own version of weird, right? Like I think everyone is their own version of weird. He was his own version of like pilot weird. And I do wonder if one, you either need to know someone like that or really get to know your customers so that you can speak like that. Or if you are this person, if you're watching this podcast and you want to start a business and this is you, I'd be all over this, I think.
If this is you, it's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. Like just the amount of uniqueness you could add to one of these businesses if you were squarely in the market and you were using the products is like phenomenal. And that probably adds some really cool options into the business that you might not have if you're from the outside. To me, I think the main thing that sticks in my mind that I would want to be looking into with one of these, like whether it's the aircraft or whether it's the trains or whether it's the RC cars, is like I'd probably be looking very closely at the supplier side. Like, are there enough like brands out there for you to build a store around that are going to drop ship as well? Because when you go through those calls, you always get some no's on the first round of calls, and so that's aside from that, aside from really diving into that and working out that that's going to work. I mean, yeah, for the right person, these are no brainers.
Yeah, and I think I saw some other industries there, right? So this person isn't just selling the aircrafts, but they've got the avionics, they've got GPS systems, they've got headsets. And the gentleman I was speaking of, he was working through those headsets back in the day.
Yeah.
No idea how he ended up doing it. We don't really speak anymore, but I could see how you could really branch out here to target one human buying a lot of products, not just buying the RC plane, let alone, I imagine, the thing you need to operate it, the handheld, the controller, if you will. I'm sure it's called something else in here. And I look really dumb to the guy who's like thinking about this.
Yeah.
I would imagine those are expensive as well. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here to like. Just on the plane side, I'm not even looking at a train or a car. And there's probably something beyond trains and cars and planes that I'm not thinking of either.
Totally.
This is very interesting. I wonder if there's like, you remember when we were in school, or maybe you didn't do this, but I went to summer school to planes, trains, and automobiles, and we built rockets, and you would just put basically like a firework in it, right? And then shoot them up and they'd parachute down.
Yep.
I got to imagine there's people into that too, right? I bet there's like Elon Musk enthusiasts who want, a super heavy lookalike that shoots off, right?
Off. Yeah. I could say it.
There's opportunity everywhere. I
like there's amateur rocket enthusiasts for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it gets high ticket without doing some Googling here on screen. But this is what you should be doing when you're thinking about researching products like this, researching niches like this, is just start going down rabbit holes. Start wondering what else could work, because you're going to stumble into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, the temptation probably is to combine it all into one store first up. And I'm not saying that that's not the right answer, that's not the right path to take, because particularly if you're in a smaller country. So I think I would go into the individual ones in the US for sure, because the market's such a larger market. But possibly if you're in Australia or the UK, even, you might find that individually those things are at this point in time, are very small, and you might want to go a bit deeper. But yeah, man, I think there's a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling. This site is fascinating. It's giving me so many ideas. Yeah. I met a guy at ECF who makes maps. And like he just finds obscure maps and then has them printed high quality, but they're all print on demand. And so there's these FAA charts on here, right? Like low altitude chart, high altitude chart, and just over your country or over your state or over your region. I don't know, I'm getting excited about this. This one actually has me really excited. So
nice.
Yeah, look, we can wrap this thing up, but I think for me, what do you think? Is it a yes for me?
I mean, I think it's a yes. I think it's a yes for me, for the right person, for sure.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute no-brainer, especially if this is like your thing. If you're into this, you should be all over this. I'd probably get started today if this is you.
Thanks for listening to the Dropship Podcast. You can find all the show notes for this episode at dropshippodcast.com. And if you're ready to take the next step in your dropshipping journey, we invite you to join us inside Dropship Breakthru, where John and I will walk you through step by step in starting your own high-ticket dropshipping e-commerce business. But that's not all. Dropship Breakthru will also teach you everything you'll need to know to grow your business and take it to the next level. So head over to dropshipbreakthru.com and sign up for our free training that will help you take the first steps towards building and growing your own profitable high-ticket dropshipping business.